It's the first week of 2022, and I don't know about you, but I'm sure happy and grateful to be still alive. And believe it or not, I'm super excited about this year. In the last week of 2021, I tested positive for COVID, and while I'm still recovering, I still have some chest congestion and cough. Overall, I feel totally fine. In this video, I want to share with you my personal experience with COVID, how getting COVID gave me a new purpose for my life, but most importantly, I really hope that this video will inspire you to take a different look at your own life and to get a new perspective for your future. Just please, all I'm asking is to keep your mind open. In this video, by no means I'm trying to change your mind about COVID restrictions or vaccination. All I'm doing is sharing my personal experience, thoughts, views, and opinions, and I really hope you will be able to relate to my story one way or another. So without any further ado, let's go and get started. But first, for those of you who are new here, let me introduce myself and give you a quick backstory. My name is Paul, Extra Hyperactive, and I'm the creator of Extra Hyperactive Network, the only network that helps people live a happy, healthy, and wealthy life. All my life, I've been what they call a health nut. I've been involved in sports and fitness since age 6. I trained and competed in wrestling, judo, Russian sambo, Brazilian jiu-jitsu, and traditional martial arts. Until age 25, I was also a competitive athlete, a coach, and a martial arts instructor. After retiring from competition, I started working in the fitness industry, first as a personal trainer and then in fitness sales. I also ran a few of my own businesses. In 2009, I was diagnosed with bipolar and ADHD, and after going through the whole 9 yards of traditional treatment, like prescription drugs, therapy, support groups, I realized that it wasn't working for me. So after spending a lot of time doing my own research, in 2018 I started my own fitness-based system to help people like myself, people with mental health issues, improve both their physical and mental health. Because one of the most important things that I learned from my studies was, in a disordered mind, as in a disordered body, soundness of health is impossible. Around the same time in 2018, I started learning more about entrepreneurship, business, economics, and politics. It was about that time when I first heard from the so-called conspiracy theorists about Agenda 21 and the Great Reset. It was about that time when I went back to reread my childhood books like 1984, The Animal House, and Brave New World. Books that back in my days were considered to be utopian sci-fi books about something that could never happen in the modern civilized world. Now, the reason I'm telling you my backstory is because everything I learned about health and fitness, business, economics, and politics tremendously helped me prepare for what was coming in 2020. In March 2020, when the first lockdowns were introduced here in Washington state, all of a sudden I realized that everything I read in my favorite childhood books, everything I heard from all those conspiracy theorists were becoming a reality. But you know what? Just like most people in 2020, I believe that if we would just take all the necessary precautions like wearing masks and maintaining social distancing, and most important, dedicating more effort to boosting our natural immune system through exercise and eating right and spending time outdoors, if we just did all that, soon we would be able to go back to normal. But in November 2020, when Joe Biden and the Democratic Party came to power in this country, and later on when the Biden administration started forced vaccination, I realized that this whole pandemic and its measures were only about two things: power and control. Nowadays, one doesn't have to be a conspiracy theorist to know that most people who decided to get vaccinated did so because they were afraid of losing their jobs. And I'm not gonna lie to you, I was scared too. Even though nowadays I'm blessed to mainly depend on income streams outside of my part-time job, I'm scared to lose my basic, God-given and the US Constitution protected freedom and rights. But despite of all my fears, based on the information I had learned and my personal beliefs, I refused to submit to my fears, and to be honest, I believe that I would be one of those lucky people who would never get COVID. And I almost got away with that. 2 weeks before the new year, his last day in school, my 14-year-old son came back from school with the news that he was exposed to COVID from somebody who was not vaccinated. The next day, he started having a mild fever. His mother, who is double jabbed vaccinated, started treating him with over-the-counter drugs like Tylenol and Thermoflu. And literally in 2 days, he was fine, running around the house like nothing happened. I learned about my son getting COVID when he was already feeling better, and I rushed to his room to give him a hug and a kiss, hoping to get COVID myself. But a week later, I still felt just fine. His mother, on the other hand, who is, as I've just said, double jabbed while taking care of our son, wasn't wearing a mask, and as a result, she got COVID from him. Now, and I can't stress this enough, this is just my theory. Because she was vaccinated, being sick with COVID was much worse for her, and recovering from COVID took her more than 2 weeks. More than that, she also gave COVID not only to me, but even to our little dog. The poor thing was coughing for like 2 days, but luckily she turned out to be a strong bitch. I'm still talking about our dog, by the way, and she recovered fast. As for me, while the physical toll on my body was minimal, the worst part for me was probably the severe sore throat, but the psychological effect of getting tested positive for COVID was almost devastating. You see, a few years back, I started developing a swelling in my stomach, and after the first test, the doctors were not sure if it was a stomach cancer or something else. They needed to do more tests. But for more than 20 years that I've lived in the United States, I've never had medical insurance. And I knew that if, God forbid, I would end up in a hospital, I would spend the rest of my life paying off medical bills, and I could be a burden to my family. That's why I never followed up. In 2020, with the beginning of the so-called pandemic, the mainstream media was bombarding us with horrific COVID stories about severe complications and deaths of people with pre-existing medical conditions. So when I got tested positive for COVID, you can only imagine what started going through my mind. I can swear I could feel the fear spreading from my mind and overtaking my entire body. And that was when my training and knowledge dealing with my mental health issues suddenly kicked in. Only this time it was on a much different level. Even though before I had asked myself questions like, if this was your last year of your life, how would you live it? What would you do differently? But this time the reality really set in, and it wasn't just about COVID. It's about uncertainty that nowadays surrounds us all. That's why now as never before it's important to surround yourself with like-minded people to make a conscious decision to live the life you want for yourself and your loved ones. And that's why after recovering from COVID, I've made the decision to make the rest of my life the best of my life. If you feel that you can relate to my story, I encourage you to check out our network, or at least our YouTube channel, where I will continue sharing my motivational, inspirational, and thought-provoking stories to help you live a happy, healthy, and wealthy life. And if you have a story of your own to share, I'm looking forward to hearing from you. Thanks for watching this video, and you have a great day.